This week's Just You award goes to Mike and Kelsey Dominy. Their podcast is called Next Best Yes. They talk about knowing God even when it's hard to hear Him. But most of all, they talk in a way that makes me want to lean in. I never hear them say, you guys, or everybody. It feels like they're talking just to me. That takes skill and art to make your listener feel as though they're the only one and that they matter. So great job, Mike and Kelsey. Good work and congratulations on the Just You Award. Check out their podcast anywhere you can get podcasts. Next Best Yes. There's something that you do that I just want to acknowledge you for.
Oh,
Because I work in radio, I have this thing about you guys and everybody. I try to listen to so many podcasts and so many of them do that. And they feel like they're being inclusive, but people that are lonely or people that have trauma, that feels exclusive. It's like now I've put you in a big group and I've stepped up on stage way above you. The feeling, you don't do that. You always say you, in case you want to know. You never, I listened and I was like so happy because you don't go, you guys need to know. You're like, you might want to know. You were brilliant. And I felt like I was leaning in, like she's talking to me. Like I felt like I was connecting with you, even though you are talking to a zillion people. Every person listening is probably going, she's talking to me. That's a beautiful thing because we're at a very lonely time after COVID. So many people, they just need to feel like they matter. They feel,
yes.
You feel seen and heard. And you were brilliant. And I just
thank you, Lori.
I just love what you're doing.
If you have been thinking or saying, I want to do a podcast, but then immediately you think, I'm not techie. I hate my voice. Who would listen? What would I say? If you are a woman over 40, you have things to say. And with my course, the Podpreneur Blueprint, you can get a podcast up and running within a week if you'd like. If you're not techie, don't worry. I give you options of how to find someone that can help you. We are not islands. We don't do this alone. If not now, when? Because on New Year's, when you make that new resolution, this year, I'm going to think about this. You could be saying, this year I did, and I have 52 episodes. You can do this. Learn all about podcasting with the Podpreneur Blueprint System. Go to www.coachlori.com and get your flash sale today. Somebody's praying for an answer, and you have it. Will you say yes? Go to www.coachlori.com. That's Laurie.
Has your life, your dreams been interrupted? Good news. It is possible to reinvent our lives. People are doing it every day, and some are brave enough to share the struggles, disappointments, and challenges. If you are looking for a new beginning, a do-over, or to rediscover your passion, maybe even find a new one, then grab a cup of coffee and let's talk. Interrupted, Act 2, Reinventing Your Legacy, with your host, Coach Lori.
Tirralan Watkins is the founder of Tinsel Town Mom, the podcast Mometize Your Passion. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I really want to talk about podcasting, but tell me about Tinsel Town Mom.
Tinsel Town Mom started before I became a mom. I feel like it was in the making, like God was getting me ready for this. After I graduated from undergrad, I had always had a passion for acting. I decided to move to Hollywood because I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area with my family. And I moved to Hollywood, aka Tinsel Town, to pursue my acting career. There is where I met my husband, who had moved from Alabama to pursue his filmmaking career. We met in a small writing group at our church, fell in love, got married. I went back to school got a professional writing degree from USC because my acting passion had actually evolved into a writing passion. And then I started pursuing my writing. After I got my master's, I was like, well, what am I going to do with this degree? And I had already been doing freelance writing and writing for different publications and decided, you know what, I'm going to start my own website, my own blog. And at that time, I became a mother. My husband came up with the name because we both moved to Hollywood. We're living there. Hollywood is so cliche. So he's like, well, what about Tinsel Town Mom? And I'm like, that's perfect. This year is my 10-year anniversary of Tinsel Town Mom. It started as just a blog where I was just writing about celebrity moms and interviewing celebrity moms, just talking about their road to success. And after all of those years and after 100 plus interviews, the secret that I see for most of these moms was passion. And that's the secret sauce and why they became who they became, because they pursued their passions. So that's something that I just love talking about with Tinsel Town Mom. And then I started my podcast 5 years ago to just delve further into the space of helping moms to do the things that they need to do so they can make time to pursue their passions.
You kind of transitioned from actor to writer, and that seems to be your passion.
Yes.
When I think about that, my book is Did Not See That Coming, Hope for the Single Parent. Oh. And it seems so often with moms, it's so easy to get caught up in all the daily things and all the kid things that there's not only not time, but there seems to be some guilt. Is that what you found out? Guilt around following your passion?
Yes, because I was pursuing my passions when I was working full time in corporate America. So I had all kinds of guilt because I was working in corporate America, taking my kids to daycare, and also on the side pursuing my passion. So I felt like I was really working around the clock. So I had to really learn how to manage that properly. But I felt like when I started including my kids more in my passions, that guilt started to wane, because when I started pursuing my passions, my kids were enjoying the benefits of that. For example, my blog, Tinsel Town Mom, because it was getting a lot of publicity at the time because I was interviewing celebrities, I was doing some national media and some things like some red carpet events and movie premieres. My kids got to benefit from that. I became a brand ambassador for Peanuts for like 3 years. They got to go to all these amazing theme parks. So they were reaping the benefit of me pursuing my passions. And even today, they're teenagers and they're still reaping the benefits because now they're pursuing their passions. They're helping me. They're giving me ideas. And I just make sure I include them in that. And I make sure that they're seeing, okay, it's a good thing to pursue your passions because that'll help you for the future. That can help them decide what major they want to major in when they get to college. I always bring it back to passion.
Speaking of passion, how did you transition from corporate America to what you're doing now?
Let's see, that was maybe 3 years ago. It was already in the making and set up for that. So it was something that my husband and I had talked about for years, really. So we just had to prepare for it and what that would look like for our family financially. And it finally happened where I think it was 3 years ago that financially we were able to have me transition from my corporate position. At the time, I was a corporate recruiter and it was a wonderful job, but I was able to transition out of that role and work on what I wanted, my passions full time.
Now what you're doing is the podcast and the Tinsel Town Mom website.
Right. So Tinsel Town Mom, instead of just being the blog, it's a whole brand where I incorporate coaching, where I help moms to tap into their God-led passions, turn it into an offer, market it, and then set out goals to actually attain those passions. And I have a book coming out within a couple of months of the same name of my podcast, Mometize Your Passion. And it'll further help moms to tap into their passions and monetize it. Just excited because I feel like when mothers actually tap into those passions, it brings them fulfillment, but also they're helping other people in the process. It's a good thing.
You've been doing your podcast for 5 years. Kudos to you, because in my research on podcasts, many people start and they just don't keep it going. So what has given you the fortitude, or what has kept you going for so long?
Well, I always say, if you really want to market yourself, market your business, your service, or your product, then you should have some form of long form content, whether that's a blog, a podcast, or a YouTube channel. And I've had my blog, for 10 years, and that's done great. I've had a lot of articles that have reached the top pages of Google. When I started my podcast 5 years ago, the vision of my focus changed at the beginning of this year. And I did kind of like a test for my podcast to see how far it would grow versus a blog. At the beginning of this year, I started focusing more on helping moms to tap into their passions and monetize it. And at the beginning of this year, my podcast was a top 5% podcast among globally podcasters. Within 3 months, it became a top 2.5% podcast. Within 5 months, it became a top 2% podcast. I could not have done that with my blog or a YouTube channel. Podcasting, for what I do, it's the easiest way to get yourself out there and market yourself because it's not as saturated as a blog or a YouTube channel. You need some way to like market yourself. So I feel like with my podcast, like it's helped bring more people into my brand. Like even 5 years later, it's still not as saturated as like the blog market or the YouTube market.
How do we take our content and reuse it?
I do repurpose my content from my podcast onto my blog and also to Pinterest and Instagram. And I have a YouTube channel as well, but I'm not really maintaining it like I should. I'm not really building it up like I should, but I do have one. Okay. But I definitely repurpose.
With your podcasting, I love it. I am in the top 5%. I haven't gotten above that yet. How do you promote?
Pinterest, I think, is wonderful because so I use Canva. So for Pinterest, for example, I'll just do maybe a 30 or 60 second clip of my podcast guest or me talking about whatever the subject was for that week. And then I'll put a beautiful cover art because it has to be, because I feel like the cover also has to be, I don't know if you know about SEO, like search engine optimization. I feel like the cover has to be SEO friendly as well. Like it has to be something visually someone actually wants to click on. So for Pinterest, I'll make sure it's a visually stimulating cover art with the audio and I'll post it on Pinterest. I feel like with Pinterest, I probably get 70,000 views per month on Pinterest. And these are just from old articles. Pinterest just has a way of just showing your stuff to people. Better than Instagram or Facebook where they only show your stuff to like 5% of your audience.
Wow.
It's very small. As far as promotion, I feel like promotion, I love talking about promotion and marketing. I was in sales for 15 years, like a top salesperson, and I have a lot of experience in that. So as far as marketing as well, I also use my guests to help me market because I do, interview a lot of high profile moms. So I do ask them, okay, can you also share this on your Instagram? And that way it gets more traction because they have a bigger audience and their audience will listen to them and then go listen to the episode.
And when you share on Instagram, do you do the same as for Pinterest or do you share differently on Insta?
Oh, on Insta, it's different. I don't just put my cover because nobody would click on it if I did that on Instagram. Like it really has to be something catchy for Instagram because they're used to, it's similar to me to YouTube where they want to see something and get something that's gratifying. They don't want to just see a post with nothing on it. They want to see something that is clickable and something that is interesting to them. So it definitely has to be something that is a 30 or 60 second, you call it a soundbite in radio?
Yeah. Or lately I call it a reel, even though the picture might stay still. It's at least got audio with it.
Yeah. Because if you just put a picture, it's just the same generic picture on Instagram, nobody's going to click on it. What Instagram does, the algorithm, when they see that no one's clicking on your post, they just stop showing your post to people. That's what happens because you're training them not to see your post. So you have to train them to want to see your post. So you have to give them something that's clickable or that's something that they want to see. And then the next time Instagram will show your post to more people. That's just how it works.
Since you love marketing and you have so much info, what other advice would you give us on marketing our podcasts?
Definitely, I would make it SEO friendly, which is search engine optimization friendly. Like the titles, make sure each title is optimized. When I rebranded at the beginning of this year, I went through all of my titles for the last 5 years and I optimized every single title because you don't want to have a title that everyone else has. If you have a title on your podcast, it has to be something that people are actually interested in. Like even this interview, for example, the title might not be, oh, we're talking to a mom about marketing. It might be the 5 best ways to get your marketing thing. You know what I mean? It's something catchy. It has to be something catchy where someone's actually going to click on it. Because I use podcasting as a search engine, just like I do Google. And oftentimes I'm looking for a podcast to listen to. I will search up and I'm very specific, how to market X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times things don't show up on the podcast because people aren't optimizing their titles for it to show up in that way. So you can get more traction, like if you optimize the titles, if you optimize even the name of the podcast, your tagline, if you optimize what's in the content inside of your show notes, that all helps. It boosts you up in the algorithm, I guess. I don't know if it's an algorithm for podcasting, but it helps you to get out there more. That's why I was able to go from a top 5% to a top 2% within 5 months. Wow. Because of all these little things that I did to like boost my brand.
Do you have a trick to finding ways to optimize your titles and descriptions?
See, I do have a writing background too. So, and my husband's a writer as well. We just have that creativity in our family. People can use Chat GPT if they want. And they can say, okay, Chat GPT, give me 5 titles. You can even say, okay, Chat GPT, this episode is about moms working in broadcasting. Give me 5 catchy podcast titles and just see what Chat GPT comes up with and then tweak it and make it your own. Like there's different ways to do it, but I would suggest optimizing the titles because that will definitely get you seen. And if someone lands on your podcast because of an episode, they may stay and see, oh, what else does she have? And they'll see what else you have.
What else would you want us to know about? I mean, you've been doing this for so long and you've been so consistent.
I would want people to just optimize in general, whether you have a podcast or whatever brand or business you have. Like I would say just to make sure your whole brand is optimized, like whether that's your website, because oftentimes people will reach out to me. They want to be a guest on my show. I will always Google them or go to their social media. And to me, if it doesn't look professional, I'm less likely to even get back to them about being on. If I can't find their website, to me, that shows that they're unprofessional. If I'm on the website and there's no social media icons on the website, that looks unprofessional. If there's no about me page, like I don't know what you do, again, that looks unprofessional. Whatever brand or business you have, just make sure it's optimized in its entirety. Like look for ways to actually boost your brand, whether that's your social media channel. Like does it look like your brand, your social media channel, or does it look like you're a whole different company? Your website, your podcast, like I would make sure your titles are optimized, the name of your podcast. Like I would even make sure the name of your podcast is something that people actually understand. Like some people have all these fancy names, which is great. And I think it's great if you have a wonderful name. But at the minimum, make sure your tagline is optimized so they know exactly what that podcast is about.
Exactly. So what people will search for. When I created this podcast, it's been a year now, I went to Chat GPT, asked for what women in their 50s and 60s were looking for. And there was a lot of second half of life, reinventing yourself. So that's how I came up with this. But also my course is, and my webpage is Leaving a Legacy.
Leaving a legacy could have so many different meanings. I love your podcast name.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's very catchy. See, I think that one makes more sense than leaving a legacy, because leaving a legacy could mean leaving a legacy to your kids, or there's so many different meanings for leaving a legacy.
Optimize everything. And often people they'll use their own Facebook page, but then when you go to the Facebook page, you can't really tell what they do. So it sounds like just really be consistent, not only in delivering every week, but be consistent over all of the platforms that you use.
And I would say at a minimum, people should have a website. That's their main landing page where people know where to go to find you, because people are not likely to find you on a podcast, or even they may not be on social media. But if someone is thinking about hiring you, if you don't at a minimum have a website that looks professional, then they might be less likely to hire you.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell moms.
When you think about over 5 years and then you rebranded this year, what was it that brought you to rebrand?
So 5 years ago when I first started, because I was primarily just interviewing celebrity moms, I wanted to resonate more with someone who may not be interested in celebrity moms. For the podcast, my thought was I would interview doctors and experts and professionals in their field about things that are relatable to moms, like that'll help them along their journey, whether it's their child who has a mental illness, whether they have a mental illness. I interviewed every type of person you can think of. Like I interviewed a mom who lost her child. She lost her child, and the person who accidentally killed her child was her older child. But the point is, like, I wanted to interview these moms who went through these struggles to show that you can get on the other side of it. I interviewed a mom who, when she was younger, she was kidnapped and raped, and she lived to tell it and got on the other side of it. I interviewed domestic violence survivors, someone who's been in prison, as well as doctors who talked about what are signs of a narcissist in your child or bullying. So I interviewed like extreme cases of things that people have gone through, and just kind of like everyday things that moms go through, but they need help with. I wanted to interview these people to help moms so they can get the help they needed, but I still wanted them to be pursuing their passions and doing things on the side, but I wanted them to have something that's going to help them to be able to do that more effectively. So this year I decided, especially as my kids were getting older too, they're teenagers, just getting older, I felt like God was leading me into actually encouraging moms to pursue their passions and that to be the focus. So as of January, that was what my focus has been full time, is helping moms to tap into their God-led passions. Even if they're working, they can do it on the side, even if it's an hour a day. And then when they get to their second act, let's say they're empty nesters, they have this thing that they've been molding and getting ready so they can actually pursue it full time if they wanted to, if they were able to do that financially. So it kind of transitions, still helping moms, but just in a different capacity.
The thing that I've experienced over my years is because I did coach women, and then I wrote my book. In my book, I said, even if you can't do it now, do something every day, every week.
Yes.
To keep in touch, because I wanted to get back in radio. When I was raising my kids, I lived on an island, and it wasn't feasible for me to commute and leave them all day. Back then, we didn't have what we have today. We couldn't have podcasts from home, but I went and bought a microphone and I did some recordings. I kept getting myself ready to get back into radio. And so when they graduated, I was well on my way to doing that. Sometimes people wait until they're at the empty nest. Now they've got 4 years of college or 4 years. So I love that you say, start doing it now. And when we tap into our passion, doors open that we would never have imagined.
Yes. Like, I feel like that's happened to me so much, doors opening. I mean, I met my husband because I pursued my passion. He met me because he pursued it. Like, I think breakthrough happens, many great things happen when we pursue our passions. It really opens the door to many things, many great things.
Many of the women that come to my class, after a couple of classes, this is where they get to. Who's going to listen? And I say, that's not your problem. God's prompting you to share your experience, share your story. That's your job. Whether you podcast, whether you just record and leave it on your phone for your family, you're being prompted. So if you say yes, that's what matters. It doesn't matter who will ever listen or where this will ever go. It matters that you say yes and you begin to tell and share your experience, because somebody is praying for an answer and they don't have that answer today because you're worried about who's going to listen.
Yes, right. Like, you don't know who you're impacting in a huge way, or even in a small way, a small impact, but you are impacting people when you use the gifts that God has given you.
And we don't know. How many times has somebody commented on social media? I've been like, I didn't even know they were watching. And they've finally said something like, well, I've been watching you, and this is an interview I can really relate to. And one was on Alzheimer's. We don't know who we're impacting. And our job isn't to know that. Our job is to do what we're called to do.
Exactly.
And say yes.
Exactly.
So I like to show people that even if you've had terrible things happen, I just want women to know, even if you're a single mom, you may not get to clean your house totally great. You may have to put your socks in a bucket, but you can make it. You don't have to have everything perfect. You may not get all your chores done, but if you love on your kids and spend time with them, that's what's going to really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we share similar vision in many aspects.
If somebody wants to work with you, what does that look like for them?
Yeah. So usually I have them fill out a coaching application, because sometimes people say they want to work with you, but maybe they're not really serious. Yeah. I love helping moms. Like, I get so excited when I can coach someone. I think I'm the most passionate about that because I feel like I'm really helping somebody. So once they say yes, I will send them an email and ask to set up a call, like a 30-minute Zoom call, and then talk to them further about the specifics of what they're looking for. Because usually it benefits them if they can buy a package from me instead of just like a one-off. But if someone is established in their business, let's say it's you're established in your business and you just need help. Okay, I just need help with social media or this, then maybe like a 1 hour is okay. But if someone is just getting started, like the most important thing is like clarifying their vision and who they want to speak to. And sometimes that can take 2 sessions. That's not easy to do. Figure out who you're targeting specifically and what the message is that you're saying. Because you could have, like me, I'm multi-passionate, but I had to like narrow it down. Okay, I need to focus on this. Sometimes that can take the longest. So I would usually after that, if they're very new and green, come up with a package that's suitable for them. And then, be like a weekly session where we'd work together. Or again, if they're more established, you just need help with like optimizing, for example, then maybe it's just like a one-off session.
Yeah, I love it that you're so tailored. You're not trying to fit them into your program. You're like, what do you need?
Yes.
This is how we can support. And I love it that you said it's not so easy, because so many marketing coaches say, oh, niche down, niche down. And they make it sound like it should be so easy, but it is so hard. And then because you're a writer and because you have niche down, that is probably why you are such a good broadcaster and you speak to one person, because the first thing we learn is talk to your avatar, talk to one person. But then when people open up their mic, they'll go, hey, everybody. It's like, wait, who's your avatar? Let's keep talking to them in print and in vocal.
Yes. That's very true. Yeah, it's very true. For me, it was hard to do, like be very specific on who it. I'm sure for you, it took time as well. It's not an easy thing to narrow and focus down on and speak to that one group of people that you're trying to target. Mm-hmm.
But it was hard for me to get there because, well, for instance, podcasting, if you have 5 years, you could take all of those transcribed. You could have a book without actually writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could just transcribe your episode. So publishing, podcasting seems to go hand in hand, but also some people are like, that's too much. So again, niching down and really finding who is specific to what you have to offer.
Yeah. And some people, they say, oh, my target is, well, I'll just give an example of niching down. They're not even sure about it. Let's say you want to target moms. Like that's not niche enough, just targeting moms. Okay. Is it married moms? Is it single moms? Is it moms in a certain age group? Is it moms who want to pursue their passions? Is it moms who have little kids? There's so many ways to like niche it down and make it very narrowly focused. And that's why that is the most important and the hardest thing to do is finding your niche. Like I felt like when I first started Tinsel Town Mom, I was probably a little bit too niche at the beginning, like celebrity moms. The average person, they may not want to hear about celebrity moms. So, I mean, I guess there's an art to it, but it takes time. And even if I'm coaching someone, it's like, okay, you need to go sit with this, let it marinate, pray about it, because God may have other plans with this. It's not just something easy. Oh, this is my niche. It's going to take time to really kind of figure that out.
I love also that you rebranded, because I tell people say, well, I'm going to stop this podcast and start another. And I always say, no. You've got momentum. You just rebrand and keep moving forward. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. Yes. Like I had a whole different podcast name and everything. I changed the name. I just changed my strategy. I let my audience know, okay, this is what I'm doing now. And, some people chose to leave. And then now I have new people who, this is really what they want to focus on.
And your title, Monetize Your Passion, is so great because it seems like when we become moms. So when I became a mom, I wanted to be home with my kids and I could sew. So I sewed. That's what I could do. And it wasn't a forever thing, but it was something I could do and still be home with my kid. There are so many women that don't even recognize they already have something that they could monetize.
Like even stay-at-home moms, I wrote an article once about the 5 innate gifts stay-at-home moms have that they can monetize. It could be moms are good at like getting birthday parties together or school parties together. They can use those skills to be like a party planner on the side. There's so many skills that moms have that they don't even realize that they can make money from. And it could be something that they love doing and they don't even realize, okay, I can actually make money from this thing that I love to do. Well, I know there's some influencers I've spoken to that they have big brands like on their Instagram, and they didn't realize though, social media is not where you want to build your brand and your business. Even though they're making good money from it, they're getting sponsorships. If you don't have an email list, if you don't have people that you can go to if you're trying to actually sell something, social media can shut you down in a day and you have nothing. So they've decided, okay, you're right. I need to start building my email list. I need to start building off of social media, because social media can get mad one day because you're not agreeing to the philosophies that they want you to agree to. Because even as Christians, one day there will be a day of reckoning where, okay, you need to play by these rules or we're going to kick you off of social media, even though you're making money on social media. You need to have your own. Still, you can, be on social media, but have your own. Let's say social media is out. Let's say Instagram goes out for 2 days or you get kicked off. You still have these 1,000, 2,000 people on your email list that you can email. Oh, I'm not on social media anymore, but by the way, I have a new book that's coming out.
Tirralan, this has been so informative and I have learned so much. So before we go, what is it you really want us to know?
It's my passion to help people, moms in particular, tap into their passions. And I just want you to know that if you do tap into, I say your God-led passions, because your God-led passions are what's going to make an impact in this world. Like, you can literally change someone's life. You can change the future in a big way if you would just sit still, be quiet, ask God, okay, what do you want me to pursue? He will open up the doors for you. You don't have to worry about that. He'll show you where to go. He'll give you the direction. He'll give you the roadmap. Be prayerful about it and ask him to lead you, and he will guide you on where you need to go. I have a long story of how he guided me, but it was so God, just how he just moved everything and opened all the doors, because it's something that he wanted me to do. So I will encourage you to please just ask God, okay, what do you want me to pursue? What do you want me to pursue? And ask him to open the doors. He will.
Be willing to say yes, even if it's scary. Like,
yes.
People say, don't be afraid, but we're going to be afraid, but just do it. If you
Exactly. It's going to be scary. Yeah. It was scary for me to start my podcast when he wanted me to take the next step and do a podcast.
But you said yes.
I said yes.
And now 5 years, 5 times 50, basically, you've got like 250 or more episodes. Thank you so much.
If you love this podcast, here's a big ask. Will you share with your friends and family, subscribe, give us a review, and a 5-star rating so that others looking to reinvent their lives will be able to get the help they're looking for? Thank you in advance.